Owen Abbas Hussain here from FightHype.com, and we're here at the Lamex Stadium with none other than Frank Warren. Frank, big stadium fight, an open air fight. It's always a good night.
Yeah, I'm expecting a good night. It's Bill's challenging in his first truly competitive fight for probably about the last 18 months. By the time it comes round against Shefat Isufi, who's ranked number 1 by the WBO. He's their mandatory challenger for the title. He's fighting for the interim title, and he's got quite a good record. He's started off as a cruiserweight. He then went to light heavyweight, now settled down as a super middleweight. In his last 16 fights, he only lost 1, and that was at light heavyweight, and he's on a 10-fight winning roll as a super middleweight.
Just talks about it then, where it's probably Bill's most important fight in about 18 months. Has it been a lot of frustration in regards to sort of managing Bill's career, because there's been a lot of injuries, there's been a lot of situations that you might not be able to control, but has it been harder than you expected?
It's been a very tough time, certainly for him. Some of it was self-inflicted, some he was unfairly treated. But the bottom line is that's in the past. Now he's got to focus on the future, and the real future for him starts here at Stevenage Football Ground on the 18th of May. That's now where he's at. He's got to make 2019 a big year for himself.
The super middleweight division's lost 2 big fighters, James DeGale and George Groves, sort of retired. Now, is it the right time for Billy Joe to step in and sort of take control? We know Callum Smith's there, Gilberto Ramirez might be going up, Caleb Plant's there, but is it the right time for sort of Billy Joe to go in and try to take control of that?
Yeah, I mean, Bill's a competitive fighter. He's never ducked anyone. He's always asked for the biggest names, and all those names you mentioned, providing he comes through this, they're fights that he would like to be, fights that he would like, and fights we'd like him to be involved in.
Frank, I spoke to Bill out there, and we were talking about what motivates him, and he sort of said to me that money is ruining boxing, in the sense that certain fights are not getting made because there's money elsewhere or whatever else, and negotiations are getting harder. Do you believe that's the case in the era of boxing that we're in now, that money has taken control, and sometimes a fighter may not look at legacy but may just look at the money? I think
that he has a valid point, and I think that could be the case. But at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. You can't force people to fight. I think we mentioned it at the press conference regarding Chris Eubank Jr. You think his legacy would be that he would want to reverse the decision that he had when Bill beat him, but he's not. There's no interest in that. So I don't. That's where some of these fighters are these days. Bill's never been a problem to make a match. We've signed for big fights for him. Actually, signed contracts on 2 occasions to fight Golovkin, and they never returned them. So you can only do what you can do. You've got to just try and make them.
It seems that the sort of talks between Bill and Chris Eubank Jr. have reignited in the past, maybe in this year, since actually Chris has won. There seems to be a lot of talks. How hard is it working with the Eubanks to make a fight?
They don't want the fight. We spoke with them last week, beginning of last week. They don't want the fight. They say all these things, but when it comes down to it, they don't want the fight. And I was foolish enough to think, I was sort of being told that they did want the fight through an intermediary, but that was never the case.
Is that the same with Canelo as well?
Canelo won't fight Bill. When he beat Lemieux, we were sitting there at ringside, all the guys from Golden Boy were there, and I said to them, and they went, and they all shook their head. They don't want that.
Fair enough. And do you feel like, even though Golovkin's still about that, there is potentially a fight in the future with one of these big boys that, if you push it, somehow there could be a place for it?
Well, we have pushed it. I think if Golovkin gets his fight out the way they're going to make their rematch, aren't they? They're going to have another 3rd fight. They get that out the way. If Golovkin were to win, or even if he lost, I think there is a good chance of making a fight between him and Bill.
Frank, you've actually showed that you were going to let Bill go out and fight on his own with the whole Andrade thing. Yeah. Would there be no restrictions in you sort of letting him go and fight wherever he wants, as long as it's a big?
It's got to work both ways. I mean, I have no problems with my guys fighting if it's the right fight and I think they can win it and come back. I have no problem with that. But that works both ways.